What going on, Crucian fam? It's your boy Kev.
And it's your girl Nye, and we moved over 1,000 miles and we planned it all in under 2 weeks.
And today we're gonna show you exactly how we did just that. So here's the things that you need to do before you complete this move. You need to set your budget, locate an apartment, choose a moving company, book the flights, advertise the apartment that you're living in so that you can sublease, relet it, get rid of it, and begin adjusting your address and mailing information. So when we began this, of course, you may think like setting the budget might be like a given, but like that is like really the most important part of this that really helped to like kickstart this move. Like that's something that I find like at least a lot of my friends sleep on, but it is very important that you situate your budget.
Yeah, and I think it's important to ensure that that budget is realistic as well. So consider your finances. You know, are you financing this move out of pocket? Are you moving for a job and they're like subsidizing the cost? I think like having a holistic view of that is important. And then whatever you think you're gonna spend on the move, double it. It's really important that or better that you overestimate your expenses than underestimate them, because you may run into a situation where you're like, oh, I thought this moving company, which we're gonna talk about later, might have cost me $2,000, but then after everything, they're like, oh, we see how much stuff you have. That's actually gonna be $3,000, $4,000, and then you're like, what? So I think that's a really important thing to consider.
Yeah.
And we want to be super transparent with you guys throughout this video. So this is how much it cost us to make that move.
Yeah, definitely heavy on the overestimating expenses. Like my personal motto whenever I'm like working on like the budget, or we're working on our budget, is that if we are not sure how much money is going in or out of a particular thing, I tend to round up the expenses and round down the income.
Yeah.
To create a very safe like margin of safety, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Like just to make sure that you are in a space where, you know, it's better to discover that you may have had more money left over than to discover that you need to pay more money for something else, much like what you mentioned.
Yeah.
So set that budget, do that before you do anything else, please. Okay, like set your limitations. Look at the things that you want to get for your apartment and make sure you jot it down. Like we literally had a working list of the things that we wanted to put into the apartment, rounded up how much they would cost, and just had like our total. So make sure you set the budget. So next thing, of course, is locating an apartment. A party part.
And that's actually sometimes my favorite part, because you get to see all the nice, pretty apartments, looking at all your must-haves, nice-to-haves.
Yeah. So in us searching for the apartment, we of course were just looking at different websites to just find different things after you have set your budget, of course, right? So actually, let's rewind a little bit. So before you even look at an apartment, you absolutely want to look at the things that are must-haves.
Yeah.
Things that are nice to have, and things that are like hell nah. Right? So we were very vigilant in how we were looking at the apartment. So we developed those criteria in tiers, like we just said, And once we were able to do that, of course, with our price, we were able to actually plug in much of those things on a pretty nice website called apartmentlist.com.
Yeah, and this is not sponsored, but we really did like using that website.
Yeah.
You know, it was really helpful, and it shows you a lot of options that fit your criteria. And then once that starts to dwindle, it also says, you know, this might not be as close as you'd like, but here's something that has all your other must-haves that's just a little further out, and then you can decide whether or not you want to explore it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a really nice feature.
Yeah,
And
it was. Sorry, I was just saying, like, it was just super detailed.
Yeah.
Like I just found it on a whim, right? Like when I was just looking at things to find apartments, came upon it, liked how it was broken down. It's free.
Yep.
That's
Key.
the most important part. It's free.
Yeah.
And yeah, you just plug in your must-haves after taking like a questionnaire, and it just gives you all of that information in a detailed way. So it was really nice. So of course, after you narrow down your select apartments, you know, whatever number you choose for your preference, that's your number. We personally went with, I think, about 5 or so.
I think so. Yeah.
And so once we were able to do that, the next thing that we did is looked at their reviews.
Yeah.
Right?
That's so important. And don't look at the reviews on like their website or whatever. If the apartment has a website, look at the reviews on Google, because that's where you're gonna get the real tea. Okay?
All right.
The residents are gonna be spilling the business on there.
Yeah.
So for us, like if we even saw a slight mention of a roach, you were a no-go.
That's the hell nah, right?
Right.
Like you're not gonna find the hell nah in apartment list.
Yeah.
Okay? You're
Yeah,
gonna find those in the reviews.
Yes.
So when you go there, definitely look for, of course, like the overall star rating. You know, some of us won't look at things unless they are 4 point something and higher, which turned out to be a very good thing because we love the space that we're in, right?
Okay.
But like, you know,
keep your standards high, okay? If you see anything that's like 3.9 stars, like skirt next. Don't even want to waste your time.
So after looking at like those general like reviews, what the overarching thing looks at, then of course filter your thing to, all right, what's the messiest thing we can find here? And then of course look at the date, because if it, like, you know, it's one thing if it's like a messy review, but if it's like from like 5 years ago, then you know you can give it a chance. Looking at the apartment or the establishment's responses are also very, very important.
Yeah.
Look at how they handle the situation, how they responded to the person.
Yeah.
It is a very good indicator of the experiences that you might expect.
For sure.
So that is a very important step for you to do. So looking at the reviews, looking deeper in the reviews about what people have to say about it, that's like that might not be unfavorable.
Yeah, just filter by 1 star. Just look at all the 1-star reviews. Go as deep and messy as you can, and then be like, could I survive in this apartment if this happened to me?
But still look at the nice reviews as well. It the majority of it comes out to 4 point whatever for a reason.
True.
But you, like we say lead with that because of course no place is gonna be perfect.
Yeah.
So you do want to know or have some kind of idea of not only the things that may have happened, but also how the establishment responds as well.
Yeah.
So that's like the most important part of that, looking at how they navigate that.
And another thing though, you know, we started talking about looking at apartment lists, and we've been fortunate both times that we've looked at apartments, we've been fortunate to end up in a good neighborhood. But sometimes you might find apartments that aren't in the best neighborhoods, but because you're moving to a new space, you know, you're not really like familiar with the neighborhoods, you might not know what kind of neighborhood you'd end up in.
Yeah.
So I'd also say make sure you do some research on the area. Like once you find the address of the apartments, you type in, like this particular neighborhood in this city, and see what like pops up. news articles, see what like the general safeness of that area is, because that's also really important.
Yeah.
But just reminding a little bit, just in case people weren't sure like what the must-haves and nice-to-haves were, or like how to formulate those things when searching for apartment. Those are basically like the must-haves are your non-negotiables. So for us, a non-negotiable is our apartment has to have washer and dryer in unit, not in building, not in complex, in unit. Like that's a non-negotiable for us. So maybe a dishwasher is like a non-negotiable for you. That's your must-have. So that's how you generate that list. The nice-to-haves are like the things that are like, ooh, it's nice to have that in an apartment, but you know, if it doesn't have it, it's not a deal breaker for me. So a nice-to-have for us was a balcony. You know, if it didn't have a balcony, that would have been fine, but having a balcony is definitely a plus, but it's not a deal breaker for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same with a pool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a nice to have, but not a must have.
Yeah. And then, you know, everything in between is everything in between. But then you have your hell nah, in which the hell nah is if there is a presence of this thing, you're not gonna go.
Yeah.
All right. It is the negative part of the must-haves.
Yeah.
It is the must not have, the must have nots. There must be no presence of this anywhere.
And that also has to be a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Like that can't be on your hell now list, and you're like, maybe I could do a little roach. Like
no. Like no. If it had the presence of the roach.
Yeah, I think it was 5 years ago. Like, I'm sorry. I know Kevin was just talking about how. Nah.
5 years.
No, I don't think it was talking about, you know, if the review's from 5 years ago, you know, maybe give it a chance. Hell nah. Okay? Hell nah. The roach might be hiding in the floorboards or some shit waiting for me to move it.
Jeez, I'm red. Another thing that you can do as well, if you're finding difficulty locating an apartment, we did this when we went to Chicago, and we did this here as well, but we just needed less assistance. But finding a leasing agent to help you. Their services are free because, well, they're at no cost to you.
Well, yes.
They're at no cost to you because it is commission based. They work that out with the
apartment complex or whatever. Yeah.
But finding a leasing agent really helps to eliminate a lot of like the hassle, both mentally and just physically, in terms of looking for all of these things that you're wanting to find. They can find that for you, down to like the safe neighborhood. Yeah. Your must-haves, must-have-nots. Hell no. Yeah. You know.
We've had really good experiences. First of all, shout out to Jenny. She was our leasing agent when we moved to Chicago. Yeah. And she was also clutch when we were leaving Chicago, but we'll talk about that a little later. Yep. But yeah, they can really come in clutch. And you know, Kevin talked about the mental burden and everything, but also the financial burden, because sometimes when people are moving to a new space, you know, they fly out to tour apartments and stuff like that. But with a leasing agent, you typically don't have to do that. You know, you could get them to go and tour the space for you. They could do like a FaceTime call or whatever. So that definitely helps a lot. Yeah. How do you find a leasing agent? Kevin wouldn't know. He never found one in his life.
You tell the people, I ain't finding.
So the first leasing agent actually found, when we moved into Chicago, I was like obsessed with looking up everything Chicago related, and I found this one leasing agent who put us in contact with Jenny, who was another leasing agent, and that's how we got in contact with her. So that was like through Instagram. For Austin, I think I actually found a leasing agent through TikTok. Yeah, I think they had like a link in their TikTok bio or something like that, and reached out. So the power of social media. But you could also just like Google leasing agents, and they typically have like websites and stuff like that. You could look on Instagram, you could look on TikTok and see. Yeah.
Of course, we are at our favorite part, choosing a moving company. Okay?
And he says favorite sarcastically because it's been a journey.
We had a time.
It's been a journey. And we made all the mistakes so that you do not have to.
Hopefully. Hopefully.
If you don't,
because they be catching folks.
They do. They do. They do. Like, where do we even begin? like shop around first of all.
Yeah.
You want to compare prices. One person might quote you 1,500, somebody might quote you 3,000. You know, and just make sure that you're asking like, what does this cover? Is there fuel surcharge in here? Does this cover the cost of them coming to pack your stuff? Does it include packing materials? Is it just them coming to pick up the boxes and you've already packed it? So finding out all of those things is important. So definitely shop around, get a lot of quotes if you need to. Don't make them pressure you into signing before you like do your research on what it actually costs to move around.
Yeah. And like with the apartments, you know, it's kind of a similar process in like being able to look at the reviews and look at what other people have said about this particular moving company. When it comes to the moving company, I may say to look at more than the apartments you probably narrow down to, because it can get really tricky. A large piece of advice that we want to pass on to you is make sure that the moving company is a moving company and not a moving broker.
Yeah.
Okay?
You want to explain the difference?
Yeah. So a moving company is the folks, or are the folks that you're dealing with from start to finish, who you're talking to, who is moving the stuff from area to area. The moving brokers are the folks that you talk with, and then they contract
the job
the actual moving job out to some other moving company. That is an important thing that you want to ask the folks straight up. Ask them, are you guys the actual moving services that I will be dealing with upon transport, or are you guys brokering the job out to someone else? Because that's not gonna be apparent all the time on their website.
Yep.
For example, we rolled with a company called J&J Van Lines. Everything seemed honky-dory. Their website was cool. They advertised themselves as Google guaranteed business, which definitely created a sort of trust, and their prices were pretty good for what we had. I think it was it initially was like 1,500 or something.
Maybe 18, and
18?
then with like the packing thing added, it took it up to like 2,000 or so.
Yeah, so just around $2,000, which from Chicago to Austin, we find that to be pretty good.
Yeah.
They were a broker. Okay? They were a brokerage company, and we had no idea. So when we were advancing with their stuff and it was time to move, this completely different company called Arena Van Lines came and picked up our stuff.
Yeah. And that in and of itself was a whole mess, you know, and just beware, you know. It's so tough. Just make sure you fully read the contract. Don't make them like pressure you into signing without reading. Ensure that you know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah. Like, the main problem that we had with them, Arena Van Lines specifically, they packed up our stuff relatively quickly, which was cool. It took them just under 2 hours to get that done. The problem came with the delivery time. Well, one of them. So they had us under the impression that they were going to deliver the stuff from Chicago to Austin within about a 2 to 3 days. 2 to 3 day period.
Yeah.
But in reality, on their contract, it said that they could take up to 30 business days to arrive, and 30 business days they took. Okay, they had our stuff in that warehouse for 30 business days. And we know that it was in the warehouse because we had trackers in our stuff, or a tracker. So of course, when dealing with that, we absolutely endorse putting some trackers in there, whether it's an ear tag or what's the Samsung tag, or whichever tags you fancy.
Yep.
Just get one, get a pack, put them in your stuff, so that way you have a great idea of where they're at. In fact, I might even recommend the different brands, because different ones function depending on what cell phones are nearby.
Yep.
So it helps to maximize your chances of seeing it,
track it.
accurately. So so
because we were able to watch them put our stuff, well, we couldn't watch them put our stuff on the truck. We were able to see our stuff come to Texas, leave Texas without being delivered to us, to go to some other state, driving around to come back to, it was Oklahoma. Yeah. For them to like push back the date, like, oh, they called and they're like, oh, we're coming on Saturday, and then they called like, oops, psych, we're coming on Tuesday, and then they called, oops, psych, we're coming on Saturday. So it was just a whole lot of back and forth that we really want you guys to not experience. You know, it turns out that one company that our job was brokered to had like 1 star on the Better Business Bureau. It was a whole mess. So if you don't take away anything else from this video, just be really careful with the company that you choose.
Yes.
Because you'll be sleeping on the floor if you didn't have like an air mattress or something to sleep on.
Yeah.
You'll have no clothes if you didn't pack enough. Like, they had all our stuff for that entire period of time. Our plant died in their care.
Yeah.
Because we thought we were gonna get our stuff in 2 to 3 days. And like, oh, it's a succulent, it'll survive.
It did not survive.
30 days later, dead. So.
So.
Yeah.
Moral of that section: if you see J&J van lines, be wary. And if you see Arena van lines,
just run.
Stay away. Stay away. Okay? 1 stars. 1 stars everywhere. Okay?
Alright.
Do not engage. Alright? Of course, the next step after you got everything situated is booking your flights. Okay? Do not book the flight to come the day of. Alright?
Not the day before. Like, if you, let's say you're moving for a job or you're moving for school, and this job or school starts February 10th, do not show up here February 10th. Do not show up February 9th. Give yourself some time to come settle in and like explore your space, relax, take a breather, because moving is a lot of work. It definitely wears you out. So you want to ensure that you give yourself some time to settle into the new space. So I'd say as early as you could, but if you're on like a tight time frame, I'd say at least a week, like minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty, so it allows you to get there early, allows you to adjust for any kind of unforeseen circumstances, gives you time to get the layout of the land, gets you time to settle in if you want to like establish like your transportation, just different things, okay?
Yep.
Just don't show up there the day of, all right?
Oh, and if you didn't know, when you're booking a flight, you, instead of going to like American Airlines or Delta.com, you just go on Google Flights, you could put in the flight dates, and then it shows you like all the different flights that are available at that time, the prices you could compare. And then there's like this calendar price tracking thing where you could see, oh, if I travel a day earlier, it might be $50 cheaper. So that's another way that you could save some money when booking the flight. Yeah.
Then of course, you want to advertise your apartment. If you're living in an apartment, depending on where you live, you want to be able to get rid of it. Because I thought, foolishly, that you could just pack up and leave and don't worry about the rest of the lease. We signed a contract.
Yep.
We have to honor it in some way.
Yes.
Silly me. So you absolutely want to get situated with that. And there are a number of ways that you can get that done, fortunately. Okay? So one of them is advertising it yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
But before we go into that, I do want to say though, like, read your contract to see what the stipulations are. Because for us, we couldn't just like put it up, like we couldn't just advertise it. We had to get written permission from the property manager to like sublease our space. So that's like the first thing. Check to see what your lease terms are. You know, is there a cost? Could you just like pay a fee and break it? Are you responsible for the rest of the lease? Like what are the stipulations in there? So double check those first, and then once you know that you can actually sublease or relet the space, then you go about.
Good thing I'm married. So yeah. So once you read those things and figure out like your terms, you have a number of ways of passing that apartment on, right? If you don't or are not able to buy out the lease. And one of those is advertising it yourself. Going to different social media groups can really help. So from an initial standpoint, we consulted good old Facebook, right? And it seemed cool. We did get some prospects.
Yeah.
However, we want to warn against
The scam of them.
Okay. Like I was like, what's the robots? The robots, yes. Because you have different groups that are designed for different things. Mm-hmm. But as soon as you type in wherever and they have these keywords, you have all kinds of people sending you a bunch of nonsense. They will even DM you, and at first, depending on like the things they say, it might sound like a real person, but it's probably not.
Yeah, so like, be really careful about that.
Yeah, like of all like we submitted things to like 2 groups, and of like 20, like no, not 20 something, like maybe like 10 or 15 messages you got, only about 3 of them were real people.
Yeah.
Okay. Another option that you can do, or 2 options that we can talk about, are basically allowing someone else to market it for you. So you can, this is where you can once again choose a leasing agent.
Yep.
Or if your apartment does this, they can offer that themselves. Both of those incur a cost. Whether it's like the same commission, which might be worth like the first month's rent for the apartment, or however the apartment or the leasing agent does that commission, you can absolutely opt to do either one of those things. So we decided to go with our leasing agent. Shout out to Jenny once again. All right, she went overtime.
Yeah.
All right,
real MVP.
She went overtime in helping us to streamline that process. And once we, like, after the Facebook stuff wasn't working and time was really like narrowing down, we went to her, and within 2 tours she had people touring the apartment left and right.
We had like 3 tours in one day sometimes. Jenny was not playing. Jenny was working. Okay.
Okay.
She was putting in that work.
Yeah. So shout out to Jenny. She was really clutch, really awesome.
Yeah, it came out to the wire because the property management, they were dragging their foot. They were just they were very slow to respond to our inquiries, people's applications. We had like 2 or 3 applicants, and that was just like
so. And that's why that's really why we ended up going with the leasing agent, because it would have cost the same for both of us, for both options. I mean, but the leasing agent, you know,
they have
more incentive to actually get that thing done.
Yeah, because the property management, they're like, well, either way, we
Yeah,
get our money, so we don't care.
You know,
But yeah,
not saying that was like in fact their assumption or whichever, even
I
though
don't know.
that
I
is
hope
what
you
we
feel like
think.
it was.
But it absolutely is, like when you like analyze the stakes, either way the apartment is getting their money from you in some way, so they don't have anything to lose. With the leasing agent, that is like the motive. So that combined with our pre-existing positive rapport with Jenny, we were like, let's get this going. And she clutched it out.
Yeah, she helped us find the apartment and she helped us get rid of it. It was like a full circle moment. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, so really, really nice. Lastly, you want to take care of that housekeeping. So some of that housekeeping, of course, would involve changing your address in the different places. And this is low key, like the most important thing after the budget and the moving and choosing the moving company. It's really important, right? It's an easy thing to miss, and it's an easy thing to not even think about, right? But during, even like alongside with your budget, this is something that you can do and like start like stockpiling, start taking inventory of all of the places that you know that you get mail or send things out, all the places online that you have your address saved, and begin changing those.
So like at the banks, you have your student loans, change your address on that.
Places that you order from.
Yeah.
Government sites that you need to have, like if you have pre-existing applications for anything that you're doing or are just engaged in.
Yeah.
All of those places you need to start changing your address. So that's something that you can do right alongside with planning your budget. Make a list of all of those places, and as soon as you are en route to move, we began changing those things pretty much just before we moved, and so that way anything that you're getting can just go straight there.
Yeah. There's also the option of doing the USPS change of address form as well.
Yeah.
And that's like, I think like $1.10 or $1.90 or something for that. You could do it online. You just put in your information and it ideally reroutes any mail that's being sent to your old address to the new address. Granted, I don't know if I've actually seen it work. Like I don't know what it would look like if they rerouted something, but so
you
far,
don't get a notification like, oh, we routed this from your old address. Right?
Yeah, and I haven't seen anything that's like popped up in our new mailbox that's like, oh, this was sent to Chicago.
Oh, yeah,
but
facts.
we rerouted it. Like, I haven't seen any of that.
Facts.
So I don't even know if that actually works, but
Facts.
Yeah.
But it's worth a shot.
Yeah.
You know, it's an option that's there. It's affordable.
Yeah.
And it's just something that you want to do as a precaution if you know that you have mail that could be coming there, and then want to change it.
Yeah.
Unless like you're getting stupid mail, advertisements, scams, then I guess
all the credit card companies trying to get you to open a credit card.
Yeah, then I guess that's cool or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just the other person's problem. But I mean, it's not really that big of a problem, because when we first moved to all of these areas, there was a ton of mail from everywhere, and we just simply either put it on top of the mail bin, or they have a thing where you can put it in the outgoing.
Yeah.
So either which way, it's cool, but it's an option that you can take with the USPS change of address form. But absolutely list your things that you need to have your address changed, and change those bad boys. You don't want to be caught up changing that midway. It's probably nothing worse than you getting something that you can only get like once, and it goes to a completely different place that you're no longer at.
Yeah, that would really suck.
Yeah, so don't experience the suck. And that's pretty much what we have to offer with our experience moving, and tips on how you can facilitate that move.
So that's all the tips that we have to share with you today. Good luck with your move. We hope that you found the information in this video helpful.
Yep. And thanks for watching. If you like what you saw, make sure you give us a like, comment, and subscribe.
Yep.
And share your thoughts. All right. Have you moved before? You have anything you want to add? Share this video with someone else that may be getting ready to move.
Yep. All right. And we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.
Peace.